Happy Wealth Wednesday. Sadie, I'm so excited to have you here today. It has been such a pleasure to get to know you and to dive into what has been a really cool journey for you, going from being a nomad and more in the education and controller space, and then diving into the world of crypto and blockchain. And really remarkable, at least to me, how you really have since that point pioneered so many different parts of the space, especially in terms of access and ownership. So I can't wait to dive in. And I would love to just kick off with just where are you calling in from and what are you working on these days?
So I'm calling in from the Seattle area right now, and um, right now I'm focused mostly on Strix Leviathan, which is a crypto hedge fund, quantitatively traded hedge fund in the crypto space. We've been around for about 5 years. I'm also the one of the co-founders of Makara, which is an SEC registered robo-advisor for crypto, which was acquired by Betterment in March. And so I'm still also involved in that as that product gets integrated into Betterment's ecosystem.
First, I'd love to hear a little bit about what your first ever investment was, if you remember, both in the traditional sense or maybe even in crypto. What got you started? How did you hear about it?
My first ever traditional or legacy investment was during my college years. My grandparents gave each of us grandchildren $2,000 to put into or to do something with. And so I was just graduating college and I thought I was going to be really smart with my money. And so I used a financial advisor at this local place in my hometown, and he was associated with Solomon Swift Barney at the time, so I thought, well, I was doing something really smart, and I put it with him, and then I just kind of forgot about it, right? Because I was in my early 20s, and I thought, yeah, no big deal. Like I'll check this again at some point in the future, but it's in stock, so stock's supposed to grow, and I'm going to make all this money. It's going to be worth so much when I'm ready to retire, and I kind of forgot about it. And about 2.5, 3 years later, I finally got around to really like looking at it and seeing what it had done, and it was worth about $200. And I was shocked. I couldn't figure out what had happened. And I started going back through all the statements. And, I realized that my financial advisor was taking a pretty hefty fee every month to supposedly manage my investment. But he actually hadn't done anything, but he dumped it all into one bank stock. And at the time, for some reason, I thought it was going to be diversified into other things, but he just purchased one bank stock with it, and that bank had gone under. So that was a good hard lesson for me to learn, that I needed to pay more attention to what I was investing in. And from then on, anytime I put money into something, I tried to really do my homework and make sure I understood what was being invested in. And it also really kind of scared me away from financial advisors for a good chunk of time. I have a great one now, but it took me a long time to be willing to do that again. And then my first crypto purchase was when I worked at a company called Blue Box. We had a marketing giveaway at a conference, and we thought it'd be really fun to buy a Bitcoin and give it away. So we actually bought two and did a giveaway each day during the conference. And we couldn't get the winners to claim the Bitcoin. I want to say we paid about $300 each for each Bitcoin, and they never did claim them. So, we had two Bitcoin. We were trying to just use it at that point, but there were so few things back then that you could actually use it to pay for. Eventually, we had to just sell it. That company was acquired by IBM, and IBM didn't want us to have crypto on our balance sheet. So we had to sell those Bitcoin. But I always wonder, for those two people that ignored our messages, if they realized it later and kicked themselves.
I wonder if we'll see similar things in the future with NFTs, right? Because so many people are trying to give away these like proof of attendance and all these things. I'm so curious how it'll all shake out. But what a cool story. Like I really resonate with that, fear around honestly sometimes financial advisors and also feeling the overwhelm of trying to understand it yourself, all the research, and especially in a time, or, for many women, like just feeling really time strapped. So I'm looking forward to diving into like the later part of your journey, and also how you think about research now, later on in your career. So my first question there would be, why did you get into your space now, especially around crypto hedge funds? How did you go from basically auctioning off these Bitcoin at this event to now actually managing a hedge fund?
The founder of that company, Blue Box, that we did the giveaway was Jesse Proudman, and so I worked for Jesse at that company, and then we were acquired by IBM, and eventually both of us were ready to move on from IBM, and so he had been bitten by the crypto bug at that point and basically pitched the idea to me of starting Strix Leviathan, which is a quantitative hedge fund in the crypto space, asking if I wanted to be co-founder. I did some of like a really like deep dive over one really long weekend, reading as much as I could read about Bitcoin and about blockchain in particular. And once I started to really understand the concept of blockchain and what it does and why it's such a phenomenal technology, and the security implications, and just all the implications of a decentralized financial system, a global financial system, I was hooked. So, I've never looked back. Every job I've ever had in my career, I've been intellectually bored, I guess. I'm now approaching 5 years in crypto, and I wake up every day excited to learn something new and excited to see what is coming next.
Couldn't agree more about the curiosity that just gets ignited when you just take the simple time investment in doing some of the research for yourself, how it can really open up whole new worlds. When you think about your role in the wealth space now, what do you feel like that is, and why is that important?
I consider it a personal goal of mine to help educate as many people as I can about not just finances, but so about blockchain and cryptocurrency and digital assets and what it means for the future. I did a presentation last week in my hometown, which was really fun, about what is blockchain and Bitcoin, and I tried to make it really easily digestible. At least 10 people afterwards came up to me and said, okay, I get a little bit more what blockchain and crypto are. I feel like I kind of understand in general now, like what exactly is this, because it's been so confusing. And that was a huge win for me. And personally, I feel like that's what we have to do. We have to kind of demystify crypto and digital assets and make it less confusing, because I think in 20 years, blockchain technology is going to underlie almost everything we do, from a financial perspective and also from a social perspective, social networking and communication tools. There's a lot of fear and a lot of concern and a lot of confusion because people don't know what it is. So if we can help people understand just a little bit what it is and make them more comfortable with it, I think it'll make the industry flourish. And then on the financial side, our parents' generation had Social Security and pension plans and retirement, and our generation won't have that, and our children's generation is going to have a completely different financial future. And this, I believe, is going to be much more the financial future of our children and our generation. So helping people understand that and feel more empowered with it is really important to me.
The role of what it meant to be the first SEC registered RIA, registered investment advisor, for anyone who doesn't know, and what that meant. So would you mind sharing that a little bit more, like what that means for the wealth space, right? Traditional wealth management is typically more reticent of the crypto space. And I think this really chartered a new step that somebody could do it, that they could make this part of that world.
The story really started with Strix, which is our hedge fund, but our hedge fund is limited to qualified purchasers due to regulatory considerations. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of confusion in this space, and people who we know and love wanted to invest, but their choices were pretty limited. They couldn't invest in our fund for regulatory reasons. So they were going and opening wallets on exchanges and, trying to manage things on their own. And we couldn't advise them on what to do. So we started looking at the technology we'd built, and we went to our compliance firm and just said, okay, how do we take what we've built and make a product that everybody can use and everybody can invest in, regardless of your, economic status? And they don't need to qualify. We really wanted to figure out how can we build something better for people who are interested in this space that doesn't require them to just blindly go out and try to figure this all out on their own. So we talked to our compliance firm, and they came back and said, well, you could become a robo-advisor. This is the model, but here are all the technical requirements. And we looked at our technology stack and realized that we already had all those capabilities. We just kind of charged ahead at that point, and we became the first SEC registered robo-advisor for crypto to launch a product in the market. It was really well received. People were super excited about it. And what we did was we built what we call baskets, which are similar to index funds, where we would take a theme of crypto, like whether it be DeFi or metaverse, and we would create a basket of tokens that that fit that theme. And then we rebalance those for people periodically.
What do you feel was the most exciting thing you learned during that process? I know it may sound like it was easy, but from what I understand, like it did take quite some lift to fit this new world into an old world. What was something that was really exciting that you learned out of that process?
I think the most exciting thing for us was realizing how many people want to learn about crypto. There was a huge amount of people who just wanted to learn about what digital assets are and to better understand it. And we were really happy to see how many people realize this is a longer term play. There are a lot of people who are looking for, the crazy run-ups of certain coins, but in general, the average investor just wants to understand what it is and is really curious. And people feel like they're missing the boat. They don't know how seaworthy that boat is, so they don't really want to get into it, but they kind of do. So trying to understand what's out there is really important to people, and people really respond to that, and that really was an exciting thing for us.
What advice would you give to somebody just thinking about starting to do their own research as they're embarking on deciding which ships to jump onto?
One thing I always caution people on is, word of mouth is really dangerous. People really get excited because they hear about a friend who's invested in this amazing thing and has made all this money. And a lot of times those are really dangerous propositions, because there's a very small number of people who typically can extract wealth in that kind of a scenario. And it usually is the people who come in later who lose out. If you want to invest in crypto, it's latte money that should be going in. It's not house payment money. Really small part of your portfolio should go into crypto. You should have other alternative assets in your portfolio besides crypto if you can. So diversification is key.
I so appreciate that. And I'd love to know too, if there's a person or a company right now that's really inspiring you in the space, and why.
I'm very inspired by Somi Aryan, who is the founder of the InPeak platform. And originally it was founded as FemPeak and has moved now to more of an inclusive focus on InPeak. And the whole purpose of what she's building is education and empowerment in this space. And she's really focused on building a community and helping people understand what crypto is, not just crypto, but, blockchain world in general. She's very focused in NFTs. She's an absolute expert at this point in NFTs. She knows a ton about it, and she's really deep into that space, but she's also very interested in a lot of the other areas of, Web3, and she's super driven. She's super high energy. She really, truly is passionate about helping people understand and getting people into this space. So she's somebody who I find super inspiring.
How can we keep in touch with you personally on your journey building Strix, Leviathan, and whatever else comes in the future? And then also how to keep in touch with the projects you have touched, like Makara and Strix Leviathan as well.
LinkedIn's always a good place to reach me. If people reach out and connect and kind of tell me how that they heard my name or why they're reaching out, I do read all those messages. I tend to not accept ones if I don't know what the source is, but I've started a lot of great conversations with people there. In Peak, I'm also, so Somi Aryan's platform, I'm also a contributor there. So I do a lot of sessions there to help people and educate people on crypto. So that's also a good way to connect with me.
Fantastic. Well, Sadie, thank you so much for sharing, for doing what you're doing, for building in this space and really pioneering a lot of special and important aspects of what will ultimately help all of us feel more included in this new world. So really appreciate you, and we'll definitely be keeping in touch.
Thank you. It was fun to be here.